Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to a very special Wednesday night episode of regularly scheduled Hostilities Presents with your host, Chuck Winchester, Josh DeBoard, and very special ECW Legend Justin Credible. What's going on tonight, man? Thank you for joining the show.
Oh, thank you guys for having me, man. Just hanging in, man. Looking forward to this.
Oh, pleasure to have you, sir. Pleasure is all on this side of the table. Little camera.
Thank you.
All right. So let's start at the very beginning. So how did you get interested in professional wrestling?
Wow. Just always was a fan as a kid, just like everybody else. And, just after it progressed and I started to really get into it, I'm from Connecticut. So I was usually like more, given more old WWF wrestling. And towards 89, I went to a friend's house that had cable and WTBS and started watching the NWA and WCW. And then, Ric Flair and, those matches he had with Ricky Steamboat. And I was like, wow, I was just blown away by it. And I graduated high school in 1991. I didn't decide to go to college, which was probably stupid on my part. But, I figured, man, why not just give it a shot and try pro wrestling? And a year later, when I turned 19, I had my first match in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and started my pro wrestling career.
Oh, hell yeah. How did you get into the business? Like, how did you train, or how did you find a place to train?
I was working right out of high school at this grocery store, bagging groceries, and on break, I literally picked up the old school Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazines. And in the back, they had an advertisement for the Hart brothers, Brett and Owen's family, because there was no internet and no social media or anything like that. So there was literally a one-page article and advertisement, and I was like, "Fuck it," There was a phone number on the back. I called. I spoke to Bruce Hart. I saved up money. It was like $3,000 back then, and I just let's try it.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. That's badass.
Yeah, man.
All right. So growing up, who were some of your favorite wrestlers watching on TV? When I first started, it was the McMahon-Austin feud. So when I first started wrestling, it was at its highest peak that I can remember since I've been watching.
Yep. For me,
I think we lost audio.
No, yeah, I'm here. I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got a phone call. I don't know why that happened. No, my favorite wrestlers growing up were Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Ricky Steamboat. I was a huge Ricky Steamboat fan. Terry Funk, guys like that. Believe it or not, even like the Ultimate Warrior, I was into. So just like your typical. I was just caught up in the whole vibe of it, man. There was something about going and seeing wrestling live, especially, and being amazed by how the fans, the energy, that's something that I'll never forget. Is just like being in an arena full of fans and having them cheer. And I was like, I need to do that. I can do that, and that's how like my journey really kind of, I started wanting to do it.
Oh, absolutely. That's one thing that I feel bad with COVID right now this past year is you can't get that. I miss it. Like we've been talking about the other night. We haven't gone to a live show in over a year. Like that's
it's been crazy. And on the flip side of that, I make my living on pro wrestling. So I've lost tens of thousands of dollars. I'm not like Crimea River, but I've had to look for other work and not been very successful. And not being able to wrestle has just been crippling. It's amazing. I'm still here, like trying to just piece things together and pay the bills, because that's how you make a living. That's your chosen profession. I've really had to get creative to, like doing podcasts and other things, which normally, you don't try to charge people, but in this era, it's like, you've got to do anything you can. And it's just, we're in a different time. I just can't wait till this is over to just get back into an arena with people and, just to do that over again. We took it for granted for a long time, but I miss it greatly.
Absolutely. I believe that. I can't wait for it's over so I can see you guys get back in the ring live.
Man. Hell yeah.
Watch you do that.
Like WrestleMania, they're talking about anywhere from 25 to 40 They say Vince wants to pack it as much as he can.
Yeah,
I bet he will. So
I hope so, man. I know
I
it
don't know
sounds
if I'm
crazy,
looking.
but
I don't know if I'm looking forward to the card more or just hearing the fans. Whatever that first match is they put on there, like if Rollins Cesaro is where they're headed with them to, that has to be your first. You have to have a banger match to start to get these fans hot again, because whoever's the first match, they're going to lose their shit because it's been over a year now. I think Monday was a year when we went into lockdown.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to see the fans. I could care less about Raw or WrestleMania as far as the product, because I'm not that big into what WWE is doing, and it's not all entirely their fault. They do the best they can, but I would love to see. I would pay to see a stadium full of fans again, man. I'll be down there that weekend, as a matter of fact, for WrestleMania weekend, doing a couple personal appearances. So hopefully, we can get a real nice going out there with a bunch of fans in that stadium.
Yep, absolutely. That'd be awesome. Well, good luck with that, man. Yeah, like we said, it's going to be, I said this like a year ago, like when everything went down. The first opening camera and they point to the crowd, it's going to be loud as can be. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, it's going to be dope. Definitely. Absolutely.
If Vince wants to get somebody over, this is when to do it. When the fans are going to love anything you give to them for the first night and a half, because wrestling fans lose that patience. They have
quickly.
A very thin, especially the guy up here in the corner next to me, but that's a different story.
No, but you're absolutely right, and I really didn't think about it like that, but that's a great point you make. That's going to be a hell of an opportunity to get someone over, because for a long time we also, and this is the case because I do a AEW review show with Vince Russo on Fridays, and one thing that we miss is the audience to gauge how a wrestler is really doing as far as being over with the fans or not over, for that matter. You could always argue cable ratings and such with quarter hours, but that's really not the best indicator. The best indicator is when you go through that curtain and you hear the crowd, whether they love you or hate you or whatever, or they're not reacting to you at all. So it's going to be nice to kind of get that measuring stick back, because we're performing to them, and that live piece has been so important for so many years. Not having it's been just like bizarro world. So it's going to be great, hopefully, to get it back on the regular.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, that's a great question. Do you think that there will be people booed and or cheered that WWE didn't expect going into WrestleMania, the first time having an audience back?
Oh, I'm sure there will be. Because everybody thinks that they know. It's weird because pro wrestling was never meant to be consumed the way it is right now. Because half of the stuff we do, at least the way I did business, was reacting and improvisational to what the crowd is giving me. So a lot of the times my reactions and my work in the ring would be, hand in hand with what the crowd was giving me, whether it would be a heel or a babyface reaction, etc. So it's going to be interesting for sure on what the fans are going to kind of give to the wrestlers. It's definitely going to be something that hasn't happened in a long time, and I don't even know if they're thinking about it like that, but they should. It's going to be it's going to be interesting, because this is really never these waters have never really been treaded before, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think they're going to get some reactions. I think Drew's going to be a surprising boo that they're not there. That's going to
really
catch. I do. Lashley's too hot right now. Like when he won the title, the Twitter outpour for him was great. I mean, the guy, I've never personally met him, obviously, but he must be a great guy. Everybody speaks highly of him wherever he's worked. He got the belt. I don't think the fans want to see Drew go and take it back. Granted, he never got his moment in front of the fans, but
sure,
he had the belt for a year. In wrestling, fans, they get burnt out on stuff very quickly. They want something until they get it, then they don't want it no more. And I think that'll be Lashley.
Yeah, that very well could be. I see. I'm not. I didn't see that. I kind of am not following it as much, because it's hard to consume that much. 3 hours of Raw is a lot of television, So, but I wouldn't be surprised at that at all, because Bobby Lashley, from what I'm seeing on Twitter and so forth, it's been nothing but positive. And the Hurt business and its whole, the whole entity of it is pretty over right now. So I'd have to agree with you there.
I'm in the opposite. I think it's going to be the other way around. I think Bobby Lashley will not be as cheered as much as everybody thinks he will be, but we'll see come WrestleMania.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. Definitely.
Like you said, we have no idea because me and him talk on our show. We're like, hey, they just turned heel. But it's like, did they? We have no way to gauge whether it worked.
Right. Yeah.
You think whoever turned heel, like AEW last week when they had the big ending where MJF came out with his new group. And they're like, the Inner Circle just went babyface. Like, but did they? Like, yeah, the roster's cheering for him, but it's the roster out there, not a stadium full of fans. Yeah. So it'll be nice to actually. I'm like you. I gauge how they react to how I'm supposed to react to a point.
Sure.
But
yeah. It's very important. I think we underestimate. I mean, Vince McMahon for the longest time. I mean, sometimes he was known, especially when I was there the first time, as Aldo in the mid '90s. He was known for going to house shows. The live events is what they call them now, but going to live events and not telling the guys he was going to be there, just kind of buying a ticket and sitting up there in the boonies by himself, just to kind of see and not tell anybody who was coming, to kind of see who's really over, who's working, who's not working, and what's going on. I mean, he was infamous for doing that. So, that's really, because that's usually the best measuring stick for the people, because when you're in an arena and you're, especially that vibe of, if you ever walk into the concession area, fans are wooing or talking shit, and you can kind of see who is over at that moment. When it was like Austin's time, it was Austin 316 everywhere before the first bell ever went off. And you know what I mean? You could feel the vibe of whoever or whatever was happening in the business. And it's going to be great to see that again. And AEW needs that desperately, because they're all over the place, in my opinion, with what they're doing. I don't think they have a full understanding of exactly who's over and what's what,
I wanted to ask you that. We discussed this. Neither of us have been watching AEW because of what the inconsistencies, as you say. And there's a lot of wrestling in a week. So to do our show, we watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT. There's Impact. There's like 12 hours of it. And then we work full time and all that stuff. It's hard to follow everything.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on where AEW's at? And specifically, I wanted to bring up the end of Revolution. That was a huge topic last week on our show and in wrestling. So what was your thoughts on that? And how do you grade them so far? It's been a little over a year now they've been rolling.
Yeah. Well, let's start with how they've been doing, and then I'll go to the end of the AEW pay-per-view. They've been doing okay. I think they have certainly got caught in a rut where, they started off really strong, especially right before COVID hit. The attendance was great. The crowds and the fans, like I said earlier, really was assisting the product. I mean, ECW was a promotion built solely by the fans. The fans were almost, and Paul Heyman said this to us all the time, the fans were almost like a character for us. They helped the product to an amazing extent. AEW was headed in a, maybe not the same direction, but a similar direction where it's almost like they couldn't miss. When COVID hit and everything started to just become bare bones wrestling, they really lost its way. We were given a guy like Orange Cassidy, who was supposed to be over, but I don't know. The fans really never told us like what you said, like fans really didn't tell us he was over. The company was telling us he was over. I personally didn't see it, and neither did a lot of other people. I think they've been okay, but very inconsistent from their initial start, where they said we're going to be more sports orientated. Wins and losses are going to count. Now, quite frankly, they're a carbon copy of the WWE, where they're doing weddings and all kinds of silly shit, where it's like, and bringing in so many WWE guys that have been let go, guys all over 45, mind you. Matt Hardy, and I'm not saying it's wrong. I mean, I'm 47, but Matt Hardy's 48, Big Show's 50, Christian's 47, and more, and so many others are, way over 40. They're starting to look more and more like the WWE, which was what they did not want to be, and not how they wanted to. That's how they started initially. Now, that being said, the Kenny Omega, John Moxley feud was awesome. The match itself, the barbed wire exploding death match thing, the match was great. The pay-per-view, not, was a bit all over the place, but the match itself was great. And that explosion, Vince McMahon always said, the fans will only remember the finish. And all the fans remember. And they had more people buying into that show because they had that surprise that was, people were speculating, is it going to be CM Punk? Is it going to be Kurt Angle? It ended up being Christian, which is fine. It's just a bit of a disappointment, especially for people that thought it might be Punk. But when that thing went off, man, it was embarrassing. I felt horrible for those guys in the ring, especially because they worked so hard. The match itself was really, really good, barring that stupid. I mean, I would have thought that at least a dry run before the show, something.
Yeah.
Or I don't understand why they didn't. But and even that, they should have had an alternate, and they should have had something prepared. God forbid that happened, because that's happened actually in other exploding death matches where something went wrong, and you should have some kind of backup plan. Like the heel was there and rigged it, like, haha, we got into your head, or whatever, we fooled you, something, I don't know, some kind of corny explanation. They just looked like a bunch of idiots. So it really killed them, and I think any fan that ordered it is going to be like, I spent $50 on that. Ugh. I don't know if they'll go back. So it's going to take a little bit of time, to recover. Hopefully they do, because the show itself wasn't all that great. I mean, there were hits and misses everywhere. But yeah, it was very, very bad for a group that could have really used a home run, because, the ratings have been not bad, but not great either, So yeah, it was just a bad look for AEW, unfortunately, because I want them to succeed, because if they are doing good, the business is doing good, and we all want pro wrestling to stay healthy as possible. So, hopefully they get their shit together. But bad look, real bad look.
Yep, absolutely, and that's one thing I hate fans, I should say, who like to watch others fail, because that just destroys the thing you claim to love. You actually want to watch fail. Makes no sense. But
no sense.
But along with that is, I want to go back to what you said about the guys being over 40 and compare that to WWE guys. I don't know. I don't watch AEW consistently anymore. I stopped right around when COVID hit. So it's kind of funny that kind of started dropping downhill. But with those guys that they're saying they're over 40, like Christian and Big Show, is it or is it not a little bit different? I don't know. But will Christian be wrestling weekly or no? I know Big Show won't be. And, a lot of these WWE guys that have left WWE to go to AEW, are they wrestling every week? Are they a part of the product, or are they just there to get the names there? Is that?
I think, I don't know. I think a little bit of both, but mostly just to get the names there. I think, at least, and in the schedule is much lighter than it once was. For WWE for the longest time, I mean, every time I was there from 94 to 97, 2001 to 2003, and then 2005 to 2006. And all those runs I had, we were touring. We were on the road 20 days out of the month doing live events. That's not the case anymore. So a lot of times these wrestlers are wrestling once a week, which isn't bad, especially if you're 40 years old or plus. So I mean, it's just, to me though, I think there's just we're running into a dangerous territory when we're using stars. Like what happened to stars, from the 2005 that started in 2005, 2006. Like we're skipping a generation. It's like we almost always exclusively go to guys from the 90s or the Attitude Era. You know what I mean? To get guys to as surprises. It's we got Sting, we got Chris Jericho. Everybody's getting older and older. Who else is there to bring in? And the answer is nobody, because we're not focusing on enough of the newer guys, or guys that maybe don't have that recognition. We haven't gotten them over. So there's a whole missed generation of athletes, guys and gals, that never got over. And when finally these older guys do retire, well, then what's it going to be when you need a pop? You know what I mean? When you need somebody to kind of pop a house or a rating, who are you going to bring in? So we can't keep relying on older talent for that reason alone. And again, I'm 47. I'd love to go wrestle somewhere if I was in shape, which I'm not. But I'm glad that the door could be open for somebody my age. But that's just, we're wouldn't you rather have a 37-year-old guy, or even better, a 27-year-old guy that you could build a future on? And we got to be careful not to keep going back to the well of that Attitude Era.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Goldberg well is one that WWE loves to go back to. Like, you look at both rosters, like AEW. Like I said, I don't even watch it weekly anymore. I checked it out last week to see how they were going to deal with that ending, which kind of helped them, I think, in the rating, because a lot of people tune in to see, like, the car crashes over, what happens afterwards. But you got guys like Brian Cage, Lance Archer.
Right.
I was Orange Cassidy guy there they put him over Jericho, and then they did nothing with it after that. So I mean, they have just Miro, Kip State, like, they have loaded roster, but they keep getting watered down by Christian's going to fight Kenny, it looks like, for the belt right away. And then just keeps pushing them down. Same with WWE. You got guys like Cesaro, Nakamura, Apollo Crews up until this point. Just the list goes on, and they don't. I think Vince doesn't want to build a star bigger than the brand ever again. He wants to be this.
Yep.
AEW should be the opposite, to where they need some. MJF's probably their best young blue chip prospect. They're doing enough with him. They're protecting him, but he could be the biggest superstar homegrown from them ever. But they keep bringing in these older guys. And then as WWE releases them, you hear the rumors.
Yep.
They're going to sign this guy. And it just feels like the old TNA. I mean, literally, they have Matt Hardy, Christian, and who's the other one that all were on Impact back in the day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It just seems like they're going down the same path, and it's going to hurt them.
It is, and it's almost like they can't help themselves because they feel, okay, we're going to get brand recognition out of it. But then you're also going to get a roster that's, you're giving all of this television time away to guys that you're hoping will pop this rating, but you're just going to get stuck with a bunch. I mean, they're top 10 right now. All of them are over 40 years old, if you really think about it, other than, like, the Darby Allins of the world, the Brian Cages, et cetera, the MJFs. But, let's just remember, like I said, Paul White, even though he's not going to be wrestling full time, but still he's going to be doing some. Paul White, Sting. We got Dustin Rhodes, who's over 50. Cody's going to be getting to 40 quick. Kenny Omega's 37. Matt Hardy. Who else? Christian, Jericho. Yeah. I mean, there's just whatever. I got screwed up with the names, but there's just a ton.
There's a
ton of guys over 40, and and they're not. They need to get on a bunch of different younger guys and start pushing them and put them over these older guys. If you're going to bring in the older guys to put over the younger guys, that's cool, but they're not doing that. They're bringing in the older guys to wrestle. Like you said, Kenny Omega versus Christian. So Kenny Omega beats Christian. Then what? You're going to put Christian with an MJF and then have Christian do a job to MJF? Then Christian's going to be worthless and you're going to get stuck with that contract. So, you know what I mean? They got to be very careful of how they play this. Very careful, or else they're just going to have a lot of. It seems like WCW almost all over again in a lot of ways. Because that's what they were famous for, is just taking anybody and everybody that WWE kind of let go.
That's true. And it's kind of like, and here's a question for you too. You obviously know a lot of the inside stuff, but you have the younger guys too that left WWE. You have Miro, you have Ty Dillinger, I forget his AEW name. Sean Spears. So you have several others who were younger who complained, and the fans complained about not getting put over the right way in WWE. So they jumped ship. But now the exact same thing is happening, where the guys over 40 are still burying these younger guys who still have a lot of talent.
Yeah. It's not even. It's not just the WWE. It's just the perception, and it's almost like I don't even understand what it is. I think it's a lack of vision by promoters and by people booking these shows. I really, honestly, and nothing against Tony Khan, seems like a very good businessman. He loves wrestling. But, the reason ECW worked, and the reason I talk about it is because I was there for a very long time and saw how great Paul Heyman was. Paul Heyman took me, for example, Aldo Montoya, the guy that wore a jockstrap on his head, and made him a world heavyweight champion and a two-time tag team champion, one of the greatest tag teams of the 90s in the Impact players, Lance Storm and myself. He did that with confidence, and he did that with storylines and booking ability, and guys all working together. They need to start picking their guys. MJF, they've done a great job with. Orange Cassidy, they've done a decent job with, but they kind of dropped the ball once once COVID hit. They kind of cooled off on him for whatever reason. They need to really start to use their older talent, the talent with established names, and really pick, okay, who are my top 5 draft picks, to mix them right up with those older guys, the established names, and make these guys superstars. Bring someone in, put them right up there with Christian, and have Christian make these guys, this guy, whoever it would be. Right. Hopefully they did it with Darby Allin, but for example, Sting, they did that cinematic match with Sting and Darby Allin versus Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. I don't know if anybody really, Sting was supposed to help get these guys over. Did he? I don't think so. I don't hear how he elevated Brian Cage, who looks like $1 million, man. That dude has star written all over him. I don't think he did anything for those guys in that match as far as losing. And you know what I mean? You're supposed to help them step up. I don't see that happening in that situation. It certainly didn't feel like it. And another one too, who I think is kind of treading water right now, not really doing much, is Lance Archer, who I love. Yes. I mean, he's money. He is money. Where he's kind of messing around with the main event, but it's all they lack vision. They lack long-term strategy and planning. They just kind of are going week to week, which is what Raw does, really. Instead of getting a game plan. Like one thing Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson used to do back in the day was they used to plan WrestleMania 1 year out. And they would say, okay, the main event for WrestleMania, let's say, is going to be Rock and Austin. Tag teams, it's going to be whoever. You know what I mean? They'd put the whole thing together. And then each match they would take and book backwards. Okay, how are we going to get to Rock and Austin in 1 year? How are we going to get there? We know where we want to go. It's like, okay, put it in the GPS. We're going to Florida. How do we get to Florida? Okay, these are the roads we got to take. That's how you booked it back then. And they don't do that anymore. They're just spitballing and going, because when you know the end game, it's easier to get there writing storylines with anything. You know what I mean? And I just don't feel that they know what they're doing. I mean, easier said than done, but
I mean, I think both companies really show that lack of plan. Yeah. WWE is really bad at it, and AEW on the same thing. It's rough. You can just
it's lack of discipline. They got to stick with it, and they can't be afraid to. I mean, WWE at one point, if they believed in a guy, like Hunter, they were going to give him the brass ring. And for a lot of years, I mean, I was there when he was fans were shitting on him. They hated him when he first came out, but they knew, he's got a good look. He's tall. He's got the hair. He's got the ability. We're going to stick with him. And for a year, dude, the fans couldn't, it wasn't heat. Oh, we hate him. It was I'm bored heat. I don't want to watch this dude, turn the channel heat. But they stuck with them. And they knew, eventually we'll get him on the right path. And I just don't see any discipline in anybody's booking. It's if we don't see the results right away, we're going to press the eject and start with something else. They got to have patience and discipline when they book these guys.
The ratings are the worst thing to professional wrestling. The Monday night ratings, the Friday night ratings, because that didn't do that well that hour. Well, whoever was on that hour, he's got to go. It's no, that's not how it works.
Yeah, not anymore. Not by a long shot. It's and I mean, I get it. Look, wrestling isn't. I mean, I don't have cable television, for example. I watch everything through the internet and through apps and Netflix, Hulu, whatever. So I understand why, though. I mean, the way we get our content today has changed. So ratings aren't the be all end all, but still, nonetheless, I mean, they are still the measuring stick to certain things, and less and less people are watching wrestling, and that's a big problem for them, big time.
Sure.
Before I want to get back to that because I want to talk about this Wednesday Night War. But one thing that I'd kick my own ass if I didn't ask you. The best thing to me about Friday nights has been Roman Reigns, and that's specifically because of the pairing of him with Paul Heyman. And you worked with Paul, as you said. So how was it working with him? Because I see him now when he's on TV, he does everything right. The mannerisms, the way he talks, the way he holds the belt up to Roman, talking smack after. I mean, that show's almost must see as the Friday Night SmackDown. So how was it working with Paul? How good is this guy? Because it feels like he just understands the business.
Oh, I mean, he's brilliant. I mean, everything that's been said about him is true. He's a student of the game, but not only that, he's charismatic. He knows how to talk, and he's been doing it ever since he was like 16 years old. So he really understands the essence of it and the delivery of it. And he always he always knew what's cool, what's happening in culture, pop culture, what are the kids into, and he always tried to kind of, for his creations at least, like try to weave in some pop culture stuff. Whereas a lot of people don't really, they're just strictly in tunnel vision with wrestling. So Paul is just I hate to say genius because that's used so much and it doesn't really explain anything. He's just very meticulous and very, very much a student of the game, and he still to this day respects the business and and just knows what he's doing. He's just that good, dude. He's probably the best talker out there and has been for a very long time. And he's a great communicator. Like one of the best things, he wasn't the best booker. People always say, oh, he's a great booker. He had this great vision. Yes and no. He's a great motivator and he's a great bullshit artist. That's how he sold his wrestlers, including myself, to do whatever he wanted us to do. And the way he communicates, not only to us in the locker room, but to the fans that are watching. So that's his greatest skill is, he's just a great communicator of both ideas and angles and storyline, both as an actor and as a backstage personality,
Absolutely. He does it all. He's great. I love watching him in the ring. Like I watch him all day. So,
Yeah.
I was sad that Adam Pearce versus Paul Heyman match did not actually go down.
That would have been interesting, that's for sure.
They want to pop in ratings. For whatever reason, people would tune in to see that. I was hoping that actually, I knew it wouldn't happen, but that would have been interesting.
Baldwin.
That would have, yeah.
Well, he's definitely took somebody like what you said earlier, fans not giving him a chance. Roman Reigns is one of those guys where he main evented like 5 WrestleManias so far, so Vince has definitely given him the chance, but the fans kind of turned on him, and now they've kind of flipped that all around with the brilliance of Paul. I remember that SmackDown where they ended it with Paul in the back room with Roman. So I automatically text Chuck. I was like, oh my God, what are they? I can't wait for next week. And that's how wrestling used to be every single week. Sure. Like, what's going to happen? And they've lost that.
Right.
They've really lost the power of the cliffhanger.
Yeah. And that's how wrestling was always. I mean, it still should be being episodic television, as they like to describe it themselves. You have to give it, you have to have a reason to tune in next week. One of the things I used to love, and I know this is before your time, but there was a promotion called the UWF, and it was run by Cowboy Bill Watts. And Sting and the Ultimate Warrior and the Steiner brothers, they all came from this promotion in the early days. And they would literally end the broadcast. It was on like Saturday mornings. And like they would end the hour like, the biggest run-in and the biggest like blowout is happening. Oh my God, the Sting's coming down to the ring. We gotta go. Oh my God. Oh, and that's how they would. And then they would start next week, literally as it went off the air. Like they would have the start of the show would be, oh my God, this is how we went off the air last week, folks, and we have the fallout, coming at you next. So it kind of flowed. But it was like, it was cool, you know what I mean? Because it carried that excitement over. And it's not that hard to do. I'm surprised that people, haven't adopted that kind of hot, interesting thing, because as a kid, I would watch that and be like, oh my God, 10 more seconds. Don't shut it off. Don't shut it off. And then, you wait till next week. Finally, you get it and they show you how it went down. And so here starts the next adventure, almost like, like any good show.
Absolutely.
I don't understand why they don't do that today. Everything has to be so concrete, and they rather start these broadcasts with like a cold match or the dreaded 15-minute promo to start Raw. And then, they finish it with some match that people probably are too tired after 3 hours to watch. So, something has to change, and I think it would be, and it ain't going to happen anytime soon because they're making too much money out of it. But the 3-hour Monday Night Raw is really killing it. It's killing them. It's killing them. Because that's too much. It's way too much.
Well, you see in the ratings that last hour always just plummets because
be honest. When's the last time that any of you guys watched a Monday Night Raw and didn't fast forward through half of the bullshit? I mean, it's been years on my end. So
I when I was deep into it, man, I would watch. I mean, I didn't wrestle on Mondays when I was in ECW, but you would flip between Raw and Nitro. I mean, it was that important, and I'm in the business watching what's going on in the business. And today it's like I honestly can't get through a segment. And it's not because I'm bitter or anything like that. It's just because if I don't see it now, I'll see it on Twitter, on my Twitter feed or whatever. And back then, the thing is they need to make it must-see TV. Like you had to be there at the start of Nitro or Raw. Back in the day, it was must-see TV. You were afraid if you were going to miss something, if somebody was going to jump ship from another promotion. There were so many variables. Now it's like, in some ways, the internet has been wonderful for pro wrestling because we can get content in so many ways, and even for wrestlers to put their stuff online and get themselves over, etc. That's awesome. But in other ways, it's also killed the business. Because it's like it's just you have all the information, everything at the tip of your fingers, where you don't have to wait till you don't have to sit by your television screen and watch it religiously like you used to have to. So I mean that's just life, that's just technology. But the internet in many ways has killed that viewing for fans, and in that old way. Maybe it's time to change the whole experience in general. But it's never going to be the same, unfortunately.
Yep, that's a good point. Like, man, back in my day watching you on ECW and WWE television, back then I would never skip a minute. I would be like that time period to me would be embarrassed about how I watch wrestling today. You know what I mean? Like it's so different.
Yeah. I mean, there was just a lot more. It felt like a lot more at stake. I think we've spoiled fans in a lot of ways. And it's just, nothing matters the way it used to, I guess, storylines and stuff like that. It's like, if there's no not legitimacy, that's a bad word, but there's no stakes anymore. Like if something happened back then, if you did a loser leaves this territory or certain things happened, it really meant something, or at least for a while. Now it's just like stipulations don't mean anything. Wrestlers kind of don't mean anything. It's all so wishy-washy. So it's like, who cares if we skip a month? Who cares if we skip, 2 months or not watch this pay-per-view? Where before it's like title changes mattered. Everything seemed, at least on the outside, seemed to matter more. And I think, and it's not impossible to happen. It's just they have to slow down a little bit and just, start creating characters again. New characters and get them over, and we have to start. WWE especially has to stop being so PG because it just feels corny. Like nothing feels cool. Like when you watch WWE, there's nothing cool about it. Where like at one point with Austin and Rock, it was cool. With Goldberg, it was cool. And now it's like it's almost like you're a closet wrestling fan. Because it's corny. And you got to just kind of do something to make wrestling a little more fun and entertaining. That in PG really kind of hurts it because, it's meant to be more adult orientated. I think at least my wrestling, for the wrestling I enjoy watching, was always a little more adult orientated.
Absolutely right. And because that PG, it really limits the guys. Like look at Kevin Owens. Yeah. Kevin Owens, in my opinion's a badass. But when you PG him, it comes off as corny and goofy. It's like, no, it's not going to go over. It just won't.
Right. Yeah. Same thing with like a Steve Austin. Steve Austin could have never been Stone Cold in this era.
Not at all.
Yeah. Like, exactly.
Rock used to go on there and talk about like poo-tang and all that other stuff. Like, monkey anuses. You can't say monkey anuses on Raw right now. So the Rock would never get.
Yeah. I agree, man.
I try to gauge. So like, I'll show my friends that don't watch any wrestling. Like I've shown them, like, check this out. And one of my buddies has a 5-year-old. And I was like, what connects now? The two. It's Roman and it's Fiend. And that's it. Those are the only two. To me, those are their two top stars. And it's sad because they have so much talent. I mean, you got Seth. I don't want to start naming because there's just so damn many. They have so much talent. Charlotte, obviously. Asuka's misused. They have Rhea coming up. They have so much talent. Then you look down at NXT. It's embarrassing how much talent they have down there. But nothing's cool, and they don't give them time. The coolest thing they've probably done in the last 6 months to me was when they set Bray on fire, and they've actually sold it for 4 months. I mean, I thought he'd be back in 2 weeks perfectly fine because they don't sell anything anymore, but here we are. I think he'll be back this weekend, I think, since Randy's fighting Alexa, but
yeah, I hope so. Well, I mean, that's just that. I mean, I certainly hope they don't have Randy Orton and her actually touch. Because if they do, that's going to be, that's just silly, right? I mean, not that I don't like intergender matches, but Randy Orton's 6'3", 6'4", 250 pounds. Alexa's like 5'2", 110 pounds. It just, you know what I mean? You can't. There's no way you could, have Randy selling for her. Hopefully, it's all, but you know what they're going to do? They're going to do the mind games and. I'm sure they have something, but it'll be good to have Bray back in some way. But it's just I don't know. They're weird, man. That thing should have been. They did a good job of it, and I agree. But I hope when they bring them back, it's just as hot coming into it because they still could go further with that. I think they still have, business to do. Hopefully, they'll finish it at WrestleMania or have something for them at WrestleMania, which it seems like they will.
Yeah, maybe another Firefly. It's been a year. I don't want that match to get overdone, but I feel like they're headed towards some kind of gimmick. I'd be okay with it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's his yearly attraction. I mean, the Undertaker's gone now, so they have to do that dark character. I mean, they can utilize that, I guess.
That's a good point, actually, and you're probably right. That'll probably be the character moving forward for him, which isn't a bad deal if you're a Bray Wyatt,
No, not at all. He's still kind of younger. I think he's right around...
Oh, yeah.
35.
He's one of the younger guys, and he's a good promo. I don't know, but I feel like Vince gives him. I think he has freedom to talk, to do his own thing. Like I don't think Vince. Some of the stuff Bray says just doesn't seem like a Vince McMahon promo. Like here, read this.
Right. Yeah, you could be right about that because he does seem to have a lot of creative control over his stuff. So yeah, you may be right about that.
Who are some of the guys you enjoy? I know you watch AEW, so you do a show with Vince Russo every week. So you pretty much have to watch AEW whether you want to. Yeah. It's like us with Raw. We have to watch it because we have to have something to talk about every week. What wrestlers on all brands are you fans of currently?
Wow. I would say probably like John Moxley, MJF, I don't know. WWE, I really don't. There's not anybody that strikes me other than the usual suspects that everybody already knows. I'm not a huge Bobby Lashley fan. I'm not going to lie. I like Drew McIntyre. I haven't followed any of the stuff they have been doing. I mean, I'm aware of it, but I'm not going to say I've watched it because I haven't. But, for me, I'm missing like a WWE guy that's completely fresh. Like, is there anybody that's been out there, like, that's new, that, like, hasn't been around in, like, or is it just, like, those guys, like, the typical, like, the Seth Rollins, and those
ones
guys,
I like are gone. I liked Aleister Black. He's gone. I liked Ricochet.
Yeah, what happened to him?
I think that Twitch thing with his wife, I mean, granted, he was kind of not – he was on TV every week. He was on TV. He was in a feud with Seth. I mean,
barely.
He was on TV. Now he hasn't been looked at into. I think that Twitch thing with his wife and Vince really put him on the back burner.
Who's his wife?
I remember her name.
Zelina Vega.
There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
And when she got fired for refusing to take her Twitch off, he coincidentally disappeared off of television, and he hasn't been back since.
And he's already been buried long before that. So
I don't know if losing to Seth Rollins is being considered buried. Seth Rollins is one of the best wrestlers in the world. But
anyway. 30 seconds of TV time is getting kicked in the head. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty rough.
Yeah. But you hear what I'm saying, though. Yeah, Aleister Black
Yeah.
would actually have been a great example of somebody coming up. But yeah, I just I don't know, man. But I think those guys, for me at least, is who I'm watching. But nobody, there's just like a lot of not a lot of excitement, man. I really, there's not a lot of people that are like I want to see, like must see. Like I miss there being, like who's going to be the next Austin? Are we ever going to get somebody like that? I'm like, I want to see somebody really like just get on it. And I don't think WWE's booking like that anymore. I really would love to see wrestlers kind of just like on a roll and really getting over. Maybe like you said, man, when we start seeing crowds and fans in the buildings again, maybe that'll be the catalyst for it. Because who knows, man, there may be somebody, because there's a lot of guys who got over by mistake, and the fans kind of like the Daniel Bryan thing, where the fans kind of carried him to that level. I mean, hopefully there'll be something like that happening when we get fans back in the building, and there's some new guys will kind of come out of it, because that's what's missing desperately, is this weird kind of experiment of empty arena matches, for the last year with everyone,
I think that's kind of the problem too, because you mentioned you want another like Stone Cold run. A lot of those guys, Rock, Stone Cold, happened because of the fans, and I think Roman Reigns is the guy they wanted to be that next John Cena like guy. But when you push it as yourself as the company, it doesn't have the same effect. The fans wanted Stone Cold, the fans wanted The Rock, the fans wanted John Cena. You can't make that want Roman Reigns.
So. Exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yep, 100% right.
And I think they dropped the ball down with NXT. So NXT's, out of all of them, it's my favorite one to watch. For me, it's must-see every week. I think Triple H does a great job booking. They actually have more creative freedom down there, you can tell. You look at how great Finn's been since he's been back down there. Then you got like an Eli Drake coming in. You got a Karrion Kross who's, I don't know whether to be excited or scared shitless that he's going to be – I think he's going to be on the main roster by May. I mean, Vince is not going to wait for that guy. And I don't know if it's going to work because how he does NXT guys that quick. But you're right. Something has to change. The fact that, like, they brought NXT in for that Survivor Series. They put them over both Raw and SmackDown. And then they did nothing else after. Like, he gets an idea. He does it for a few weeks, and he's like, never mind. We talk about Raw. We call it week-to-week TV. What happened last week means nothing because they're going to completely flip it this week. So that is an issue.
Yeah, and it's hard to get momentum that way. I just really wish they would find something and stick with it, because only then will you really ever know if something's working. It just doesn't. You can't just do it 1 week or 2 weeks and then it's done. They got to slow burn this thing. And hopefully. They'll get there. Trust me. It always seems like when there's a little bit of competition, that's when the WWE as an entirety is always strongest. And, hopefully it'll be sooner than later, because if AEW continues to grow, and hopefully it does, that, WWE will get serious when its back's against the wall. Hopefully.
Absolutely. That's always when they've been at their best. When WCW was bought out, they really kind of went under a little bit, and then they kind of came back. They go on their peaks, and they balance out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I figure when AEW starts catching up, that's when you'll see Punk back. They'll get like when Impact went the Monday night and they went out and got Bret Hart, and it absolutely, I forget what rating it did, but it knocked it out of the park. Like when Vince needs to, he'll go do stuff like that. I just don't understand why he does. He has everything in front of him to do that every single week with all his talent. Why does he not do that? Do you think it's because they're making so much damn money every year? Like every year they make millions and millions more. He just got another $1 billion deal from Peacock. Like, is that the reason why he doesn't really care about the quality?
I think so. I think he just doesn't. It doesn't matter what he does. It really doesn't. I don't think he's worried about making anybody anymore. And in his mind, I think from what I hear, they just hired Johnny Ace back, Johnny Laurinaitis again, because Vince wants to be surrounded by yes men. He doesn't want anybody challenging him anymore for what his ideas are. And, he's at that point in his life. He just wants to be told, okay, that's fine. So, if you want to surround yourself with people that are just going to tell you yes, then that's great. That's why Heyman never really stuck around in creative, because he was one that always challenged Vince, and Vince really didn't like it. Although he noticed, he knows Paul's a talent and he keeps him around, obviously, but he doesn't want anybody contesting him. And in his mind, I guess it's like, why do I got to worry about it? We're on the gravy train. They're not worried about what we say. Because you know what it is, because we're the idiots that keep watching no matter what. Absolutely. And that's how they feel.
Nope, that's very true. And as a fan, that sucks, but
it does suck, Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, we had a couple questions. We'll start with this one. What do you think of Impact Wrestling?
I think it's a good promotion. I have seen a bunch of stuff that they've been doing in the past 3 or 4 months. I know Tommy Dreamer's down there, not only wrestling, but helping them out backstage. And I've heard nothing but good. I haven't watched the product really. But from what I understand, they've got a lot of great wrestlers down there. They got, who's that? They got that kid Moose, and they have another one. What's that other kid's name? Who's the champion down there now?
Rich Swann. He's about to fight Omega.
Yeah. Those guys are really good. They have the Good Brothers down there too, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. I'm big fans of them. What they're doing with New Japan is also good. I mean, they're just different right now. They seem to have kind of kicked it up a notch. But what I worry about them is they're not worried, but I think they did just kind of play to the real smart fans, and I think that's kind of as far as they go, right? I don't think they have any real, they're not really trying to grow any more than they are. Where you know what I mean? They're like happy where they are. They put out good television. It's a good place for young talent to go and kind of to work and get established and then move on. It's like a nice little feeder organization, and it's good. It's a good place to have in wrestling. It's definitely essential, and I see it as a step up from Ring of Honor, which is still around, but just not really doing much. But the fact that they're also working with AEW and Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone showing up doing their little gimmicks is cool. So I mean it's all right. It's okay.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in years, but I do like the Good Brothers, so they're pretty cool.
Yeah, they're good. They had a hell of a match with what's his name, Juice Robinson, and who's the other guy?
Oh, the ones from
they
New
call
Japan.
him Finn Juice. Yeah. They just had a killer match the other day. I think it was that Sacrifice pay-per-view that I saw a bunch of clips of. They were really good.
Yeah, I saw they just announced their next pay-per-view for the Saturday that WrestleMania will be live. So I thought that was an interesting time to play a pay-per-view.
Whoops.
Yeah, right. Hey man, if you could swing it, why not, right?
I know even Cody for AEW, he's like, yeah, we're leaving WrestleMania week alone. We know that week's WWE's week. We're not even going to do anything. So I thought it was interesting. Impact, who's like you said, is kind of working hand in hand with AEW right now, decided we're going to throw our pay-per-view that Saturday at the same exact time.
That's a weird move, but to them though, they don't really lose anything, I don't think, because they're playing in a studio. You know what I mean? That it's to bring in that talent, pay the talent. You already got the stuff there. Like it doesn't cost a ton to produce. So for them, it's like, you know what I mean? It's not like booking an arena and possibly losing tens of thousands of dollars. So in a way, COVID has hurt, but it's also helped because everybody's kind of stationary in where they do their business, right? Like recording and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, for them, it's probably like no big deal. We'll just throw it out there and see what sticks,
Yeah, makes sense. I didn't know this. Finley's son, Dave, is Juice Robinson's tag team partner.
That's right. Yep.
And, that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the fans at Mania. I was about to say I'm looking forward to WrestleMania, but the card, like you said, work backwards. Vince reportedly just changed his mind on the whole card last week, and he's completely redoing it outside his Edge, Roman, which a triple threat with Bryan's being considered apparently. Drew and Lashley just got announced this week. Bianca and Sasha, and then AJ Styles and Omos against the New Day was now announced. So they have a lot to keep building. So you can tell normally by January, because we talked about this around the Rumble, we as fans with the internet, it's a blessing because all the access it gives you, but it's bad for the same reason, because we normally know the card before February.
Right,
Like, we know what their plans are. We knew years ago Brock versus Roman, Cena's going to fight this person.
Yep.
Now Vince doesn't know, and here we are. I think we're 3 weeks away or something like that, and he just ripped up the card and hired Laurinaitis back. So Lord only knows what's going to happen.
Yep, it's it's going to be interesting. The fans being there makes it interesting, which is kind of crazy.
That's the most exciting thing.
The fans will be the headline of this show. Seriously, it will be. That'll be the biggest spectacle for WrestleMania, because it always was to me, anyways. I always loved to see that stadium full of fans, and this year it will truly be front and center, because we've been, been taken away from fans. So, I'm sure it'll be good. I hate the 2-night thing, though. That's one thing I cannot stand, is 2 nights of WrestleMania. It's like, dude, one night's good enough, seriously,
right.
But whatever.
See, the 7 hours kills me. Like, I like the 7 o'clock to 9:30, 2 nights. I can deal with that, because the pay-per-view is ending at 9:30 to 10. I'm getting old, so it's helpful for me when I have to get up.
No, I hear you. Yeah.
But the 7 hours drag me. And when it starts at 5, then it's after 12, and we're just now getting to whatever I'm just like over it at that point. Then you have the Monday night. Like this year, you have Raw after Mania. Then NXT is apparently moving to Tuesday, so you have that Tuesday. And then you got AEW Wednesday. Then you'll have SmackDown. Like, it's just like 18 hours of wrestling in 5 days. It's like, you never want to complain about wrestling because we love it, but there's a lot out there if you watch everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's too much, but,
Yep, I'm kind of with Josh here. I like the 2 nights only because it's over by like 10 o'clock and 5 a.m. sucks.
Yeah.
And then I've never been to a WrestleMania, but I know it's a very long day. And, and they were ending like 1 a.m. So I couldn't imagine sitting in a stadium stand from 2 p.m. to 1 a.m. You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be drinking the entire time, so I'd be fine. but.
Yeah. No, I hear you. But it becomes too much of anything is no good. You know what I mean? And you want to, like, to me, 3.5 hours is perfect for WrestleMania. And I mean, I'm just talking on one night, 3.5 hours, because nothing is that, and there's nothing that interesting going on that I need to see. And they're just trying to sell you fluff. That's what I hate about it. Like, they just, you know what I mean? WrestleMania 17, I was the opening match on Sunday Night Heat. It was me and X-Pac against Scotty 2 Hotty and Grandmaster Sexy and Steve Blackman. We were the opening match, and the main event was Rock and Austin at the Houston Astrodome, 67,000 people. And that was like a 4-hour Mania, and that was probably one of the best. Not because I had anything to do with it, because it was Rock and Austin, and they had like the Hardys and the Dudleys and so many other amazing matches on that card. To me, that's WrestleMania, where you can get it all. That nothing was like nothing took a back seat. You know what I mean? Right. It was all killer, and I don't want to see like every little gimmick, and getting everybody on the card and having these gimmick battle royals and blah blah blah. It's just like, give me 3.5 hours of the best you got, and and that's it. But that's WWE is they'll just throw anything out there and try to make it stick, which is fine. But I just miss those days of seeing like the tag titles, the Intercontinental title, and the heavyweight title. Boom, 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 boom. That should be the last 2 hours of your show, and you're good. You know what I mean? Just bring out your A game and have the best out there. But whatever, everybody wants that Mania payday.
And even back then, back WrestleMania 17, those titles matter. Now it's arguable that nobody gives a shit about those titles. So
that's true. That's very true. That's very true.
Yeah, titles don't hold much value. I think the most over title there is the 24/7, and that's Truth has made that relevant as hell. Like, Truth is dude. Whenever Truth's on TV, is it terrible? He might be to me, besides Bray, Orton, and Drew to a point. Truth's like must see every time he's doing. He takes whatever they give him and knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, he's great.
He is.
He's great. He's great.
If your comedy act is your most over act, I think that's probably an issue with the off.
Yeah,
like
pretty
Santino
much.
was over, but he wasn't like the main, like what you tuned in to see. He was just like a nice, like that was hilarious, at the 10 o'clock hour.
Right.
But, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Truth's awesome. He's a good dude. From what All
He
right.
has to be a kick to work with.
I would imagine. All right, so there's one question here I wanted to throw at you real quick that Simon Powell from over at the UK asked a little bit ago. And, having a guy who's actually been in the ring, fought all of, your legend in your own rights with ECW and WWE. So as a competitor, who did you like to have feuds with and matches with? The good guys, the bad guys, and what's your preference?
Definitely the good guys. To work with baby faces that were over were usually that was the best. You wanted to work with somebody that that the fans loved. So for me, I loved working with Tommy Dreamer, loved working with the Sandman, loved working with Sabu. Those are probably three, just to name a couple that were just effortless for me. Those guys were just super easy to work with. Shane Douglas. Another one, the franchise, Jerry Lynn, who was one of the greatest, guys like that were awesome.
Yep, absolutely. That sounds like an awesome roster to work with. So.
Yeah, really was.
If you were to step back in the ring now, is there anybody out there you watch on TV and you're like, man, I'd love to work with them?
I would really like to work with John Moxley. I think I could still have a relevant match with him. Even at 47, he's got that, I think we work similar styles, believe it or not. He's got that, just bulldog kind of mentality. He doesn't do a ton of crazy shit, which is always good. Because I never did a lot of that. So just like brawling and mauling kind of stuff. So yeah, I would love to work with Moxley. I think we could tell a hell of a story.
Hell yeah. Moxley is one guy I've always loved. Even, Dean Ambrose, John Moxley, he's the one guy I kind of miss watching in WWE, honestly. Like, if I would like to watch WWE because of him. Yep.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's see.
All right.
What else did we have? Did you have a favorite? This kind of piggyback size question, but did you have, out of all your matches in your career, do you have a couple that stayed out as your favorite?
The one I could say is my favorite, or at least this is what fans tell me, is 1998 Heat Wave pay-per-view against Jerry Lynn. It was part of an epic pay-per-view that, like, every match on that show was legendary, and that's the one that people always say that they watch or they've seen it recently. So I would say that one, that I could think of. I mean, I've had a lot of them, but that one would stand out as probably my favorite.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right, man. So I know we're wrapping it up here. So right now we are at 2021. Hopefully, in the outside of COVID here, what is next for Justin Credible?
I don't know. I don't know if full-time wrestling will ever be a reality for me. I'm certainly not in the physical shape I'm just not in shape to be doing other than like your spot show on an indie card. But I don't know, man. I plan on staying in the business, but probably more on the backstage side of things, I wouldn't mind having a small run in some place like maybe NWA, because I'm friends with Billy Corgan, and we've talked about possibly doing something there. But I would like to focus more on like backstage, behind the scenes stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, that backstage stuff's always fascinated me. I never been backstage at a show. I can only imagine. I can only sit here and bullshit and read about stuff online, but that's where the fun is, I would imagine.
Well, I mean, I have a unique perspective. I've been in the business 28 plus years. I've wrestled for every promotion. I've wrestled for the old WWF, the new WWE, ECW. I've been to Japan. I've been to TNA. I've been to Impact, Ring of Honor in the early days. I mean, you name it, I've done it. MLW, I've done. So I think I offer a unique perspective. I've done kind of pretty much everything there is to do in some ways. So I think I could certainly help the younger generation coming up. I was trained by the Hearts in Calgary in 1992. So I certainly have my background is all over the place. And I think I have enough of a resume that I could help the next generation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's all about knowledge. And that's, you can't teach experience. So you can only kind of show it. And, experience is what makes everybody great.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And everybody watching that tunes in, make sure to follow Justin on Twitter and Instagram. His handle's right there. He's a good follow. It was very entertaining following you during AEW Revolution. For somebody like me that did not buy it, I kind of could tell what to expect when I started watching it back afterwards from watching your reaction to after the ring didn't explode. I was like, oh, God. I got on YouTube right away, and I had to find that clip.
I thought Goldberg was entering.
Yeah, the Gilbert sparklers.
Yeah, right.
The memes were going insane that night.
Yes. Rightfully so, for that matter.
Yeah, that was an interesting night. And I really do hope AEW continues to grow. I want to have the urge to watch them again. But yeah, they got to get out of that WCW mindset. I
hope they will, and I think they will. They're a young promotion. I think they just need to kind of, they're just getting started. They have obviously they have enough money to kind of explore. So they'll get it right. They have enough wonderful guys back there. So much talent. Guys like Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko's backstage, Jerry Lynn, Billy Gunn, Tully Blanchard. I mean, you name it. Jim Ross is there. So I'm sure they have enough talent to kind of help out, and they'll find their way. They'll definitely find their way.
Yep, absolutely. Alrighty, sure. Sir, I appreciate you hanging out with us tonight here at RSH. You have been an hell of a guest. Very awesome. I can't wait to go back. I mean, I remember watching you when I was just a little kid, man. So it's been an honor having you here tonight.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you for having me. I really had a good time.
Yep, appreciate it. We did as well.
All right, fellas.
All right, sir. Hey, you have a great night, and be sure to follow Justin Credible on Instagram and Twitter at PJ Polacco. And yeah, have a great one, man. Appreciate you.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
All right. Awesome, guys. And be sure to check us out tomorrow night live at 7 p.m. That's not right. 6 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at WhatTheBuzz.com. Follow us on the Buzz, all your platforms. And anything else to add here, Joshua?
Dude, that was badass. Very smart guy. Honesty. I love his honesty. That's why he's a great follow on Twitter. He's completely honest with how he feels, and that's what I like. That's what we do here. It's really nice. It's badass to get a perspective by a guy with that much experience. That was really fucking cool. And it's always cool to me. Like I'm with you. When I was little, I watched him in some brutal matches on EC. It's just badass. Never thought I'd see the day I'm actually interviewing wrestlers I used to watch on TV.
Yep, absolutely. And you'll hear all about more of this interview tomorrow night at RSH Wrestling. Again, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So let's go ahead and get out of here, and we will talk to you guys all tomorrow night. Have a great night, and continue to fear regularly scheduled hostilities.